November 23rd, 2024, Thanksgiving dinner, my mother-in-law's house in Alpharetta, Georgia. I'm standing in the kitchen when I hear it, the sound, a woman's voice, moaning, coming from the living room where everyone is gathered. My parents, his siblings, their spouses, the children playing on the floor. For a split second, I think someone left a movie playing on the TV. Then I hear my own voice, and my blood turns to ice. I welcome you all to my channel. Thanks for your support always. Kindly help me to prove my stepmother wrong. She said I will not succeed on YouTube as a 19-year-old. Please, let's prove her wrong. Help me get to 1K sub by hitting the subscribe button and subscribe. Like, share, and comment so she can see this video and eat her words. I'm relying on you to succeed. Now let's continue. I walk into the living room and see it. The massive flat-screen television mounted above the fireplace. The one his mother is so proud of. The one she insisted we all gather around after dinner to watch the football game. Except there's no football game. There's me. Me on that screen, naked, with him, doing things that were supposed to be private, things that happened in our bedroom, things I consented to only because he was my husband, and he said it would bring us closer, and I was stupid enough to believe him. The room is frozen. My mother's hand is covering her mouth. My father has turned away, his face red with either rage or shame. I can't tell which. His mother looks like she's been slapped. His sister's staring at the screen with her jaw open, then at me, then back at the screen. And the children. Oh God, the children are still in the room. Someone, his brother, I think, lunges for the remote, fumbles with it, presses buttons frantically. But the video keeps playing. Because the remote isn't working. Because he planned this. I turn and look at him. My husband, Damon. The man I've been married to for 6 years. The man who promised to love and protect me. The man who has spent those 6 years slowly destroying everything I am. He's sitting in the leather recliner by the window. Not moving, not scrambling to turn it off. Not pretending to be horrified or confused, just sitting there, watching me, smiling. And in that moment, standing in his mother's living room while my own mother starts to cry, while his father finally finds the TV's power button and the screen goes black, while everyone sits in suffocating silence, trying to process what they just saw. In that moment, I know exactly what this is. Punishment. Punishment for trying to leave him. For packing a bag 3 nights ago while he was at work. For calling a lawyer. For finding the courage to finally say enough. He found the bag, found the lawyer's card, and instead of stopping me with his fists like he usually does, he chose humiliation. Public. Irreversible. Humiliation. His mother is the first to speak. Her voice shakes. Damon, she says, what is this? How did that? Technical glitch, Damon says smoothly, standing up, stretching like he just woke up from a nap. Must have been a mix-up with the streaming service. You know how technology is. He's lying. Everyone knows he's lying. But no one calls him on it, because that's what happens in families like this. You protect the golden child. You make excuses. You pretend. My father stands up. His hands are shaking. We're leaving, he says to my mother. She looks at me. Her eyes are filled with something I can't name. Pity, disgust, grief. Honey, she whispers, come with us. I want to. God, I want to, but my legs won't move, my voice won't work. I just stand there while my parents gather their coats and walk out the door without looking back. His family starts to disperse. Awkward mumbles about needing to check on the kids, needing to get home, needing to be literally anywhere but here. Within 5 minutes, the house is empty except for me, Damon, and his mother, who's sitting on the couch with her face in her hands. "I think you two need to talk," she finally says, standing up. "Work this out. Marriage is hard, but you don't just give up." She leaves, and I'm alone with him. Damon walks over to me slowly, deliberately. The smile is gone now, replaced by something colder. "You thought you could leave me?" he says quietly. "You thought you could take half of everything I've built and just walk away?" I can't speak, can't breathe. "That video," he continues, "I have copies everywhere, cloud storage, external drives, email accounts you don't know about. And if you try to leave again, if you call that lawyer again, if you so much as think about divorce," he leans in close, his breath hot against my ear, "I'll send it to everyone. Your job, your college friends, your little book club. Everyone you've ever known will see what a whore you are." He pulls back, looks at me with those dead eyes. "So here's what's going to happen," he says. "You're going to smile. You're going to apologize to my mother for that embarrassing technical glitch. You're going to go home, unpack that bag, and throw away that lawyer's card. And we're going to pretend this never happened." He walks toward the door, pauses. "Oh, and baby," he adds, turning back with that smile again. "Happy Thanksgiving." Then he's gone. I stand there in that empty living room for I don't know how long, and something inside me, something that's been bending and bending and bending for 6 years, it doesn't break. It crystallizes into something sharp, something cold, something dangerous. I pull out my phone, open a new note, and I start typing things I know about Damon that could destroy him. The list grows quickly because I've been his wife for 6 years. I've heard things, seen things, things he thought I was too beaten down to remember or too scared to use. But fear is a funny thing. It can keep you trapped, or it can burn away everything except the will to survive. And I'm done being trapped. By the time I leave his mother's house, I have 17 items on my list. By the time I get home, I have a plan. Damon thinks he won tonight, thinks he broke me, thinks I'll crawl back and play the obedient wife because I'm too ashamed and too scared to do anything else. He's wrong. I'm not broken. I'm rebuilt. And he has no idea what's coming. If you want to see what happens when a woman decides she's done being a victim, subscribe and hit that notification bell. You won't want to miss how this ends. 7 years ago, spring 2018, Chicago, Illinois. I wasn't always this person. The woman standing in a living room full of horrified relatives while her own naked body plays on a 70-inch screen. The woman too numb to cry, too broken to run. I used to be someone else entirely. My name is Naomi Blake. I was 26 when I met Damon, working as a marketing coordinator for a tech startup in downtown Chicago, living in a studio apartment in Wicker Park that cost too much, but had exposed brick and huge windows that filled the space with light. I loved my life. I had friends, plans, dreams of eventually starting my own consulting firm. I went to yoga classes on Wednesday nights and brunch on Sundays and art gallery openings with my roommate from college. I was whole. And then I met him, April 2018, a networking event at some overpriced rooftop bar in River North. I wasn't even supposed to be there. My boss had tickets and got sick at the last minute, asked if I wanted to go in her place. I almost said no. I wish I had. Damon was standing near the bar, wearing a suit that probably cost more than my rent. Tall, dark skin, the kind of handsome that makes you look twice. Confident in that way that borders on arrogance, but somehow doesn't cross the line. He noticed me first, walked over, introduced himself. Damon Jennings, he said, extending his hand. I don't think I've seen you at one of these before. Naomi Blake, I said. First time. Not sure I belong here, honestly. He smiled. Neither do most of these people. But you? You look like you actually have something interesting to say. It was a line, obviously, but it worked. We talked for 2 hours. He asked questions like he actually cared about the answers, laughed at my jokes, made me feel like the only person in the room. By the end of the night, I had his number. By the end of the week, we had our first date. By the end of the month, I was falling. Damon was everything I thought I wanted. Successful. He ran a consulting firm that did something with corporate restructuring. I never fully understood it, but it made him a lot of money. Attentive. He texted me good morning every day, sent flowers to my office, planned elaborate dates, rooftop dinners, jazz clubs, weekend trips to Milwaukee and Detroit. Charming. He won over my friends immediately, made my parents laugh when I brought him home for the 4th of July. He's a keeper, my mother said while we were alone in the kitchen. Don't let this one go. I didn't plan to. 6 months in, he asked me to move in with him. I hesitated, told him it was too soon, that I loved my independence, that I wasn't ready to give up my space. I'm not asking you to give anything up, he said. I'm asking you to build something with me. But if you're not ready, I understand. He didn't pressure, didn't push, just waited. And 3 weeks later, I said yes. Moving in with Damon meant moving into his world, his penthouse condo in Lincoln Park with floor-to-ceiling windows and a view of Lake Michigan, his expensive furniture, his meticulously curated life. This is ours now, he said the day I moved in. Everything I have, you have. It felt generous, romantic. I didn't realize he meant it as ownership. The first red flag came 2 months after I moved in. I was getting ready to meet my friend Taylor for drinks. Nothing special, just catching up. We hadn't seen each other in weeks. Damon came home while I was putting on my coat. Where are you going? He asked. Meeting Taylor at that wine bar in Bucktown. He nodded, set down his briefcase, loosened his tie. Cancel, he said. I laughed. What? Cancel, he repeated. I had a long day. I want you here. Damon, I haven't seen her in forever. I can't just... Naomi. His voice changed, got quieter, flatter. Cancel. I stared at him. This wasn't the man I'd been dating. This was someone else. But I told myself I was overreacting. He'd had a long day. He was stressed. It wasn't a big deal. So I texted Taylor and canceled. Damon smiled, kissed my forehead. Thank you, baby. I just missed you today. Wanted to spend the evening together. And just like that, he was back to normal. Sweet, affectionate, present. I told myself it was a one-time thing. It wasn't. The requests became more frequent, more specific. Don't wear that dress. It's too revealing. Why are you texting so much? Who is it? I don't think you should go to that work happy hour. Those guys are all trying to sleep with you. Each time, he framed it as concern, as love, as wanting to protect me. And each time, I gave in because I loved him, because I didn't want to fight, because it seemed easier to just adjust my behavior than to deal with his moods. I started wearing looser clothes, started declining invitations, started checking in constantly when I was away from home. My friends noticed. "You okay?" Taylor asked one night when I actually managed to meet her for dinner. "You seem different." "I'm fine," I said. "Just busy. Work's been crazy." She didn't look convinced, but she didn't push. And I didn't tell her the truth, that I was slowly disappearing into someone I didn't recognize, someone smaller, quieter, more careful, someone who weighed every word before speaking, who monitored every interaction with other men, who felt guilty for wanting time with her own friends, someone I used to pity. December 2018, 8 months after moving in, Damon proposed. He did it at Christmas dinner with both our families present. Got down on one knee in his mother's dining room while everyone watched and waited and smiled. I said yes. What else could I say? No, in front of everyone? No, and ruin Christmas? No, and disappoint my mother who was already crying with joy? Besides, I told myself things would get better once we were married, once we had the security of commitment, once he didn't feel like he had to worry about losing me. We set a date for June 2019. 6 months to plan a wedding. 6 months that felt like training for a performance I hadn't auditioned for. The abuse didn't start with violence. It started with words. "You're not going to wear that to the venue walkthrough, are you? Your mother is overbearing. Can you tell her to back off? I don't understand why you need a bachelorette party. Are you trying to meet other men?" Then it escalated, checking my phone when I was in the shower, demanding passwords to my email and social media, showing up at my office unannounced to surprise me with lunch, but really to see who I was talking to. My friends started falling away, not because I chose Damon over them, but because it was easier to stop trying to maintain friendships than to deal with the interrogations afterward. "Why did you laugh so hard at Taylor's joke? Was it funnier than things I say? Your friend Simone dresses like a slut. I don't want you around her anymore. If you really loved me, you'd want to spend your time with me, not them." By the time our wedding day arrived, I had no bridesmaids left except my sister, and even she pulled me aside the morning of the wedding and asked if I was sure. "I'm sure," I lied, because I'd already sent out the invitations, already bought the dress, already committed to a future I was too proud to admit I regretted. June 15th, 2019, our wedding day. I walked down the aisle in a dress that cost $5,000, smiling for photos, saying vows I meant even though I knew, deep down I knew, that I was making a mistake. Damon looked at me like I was something he'd won, not someone he loved, something he owned. And I told myself I was being paranoid, that marriage jitters were normal, that once we settled into married life, everything would be fine. Our honeymoon was in Bali, 2 weeks at a private villa with an infinity pool overlooking the jungle. It should have been paradise. But on the third night, I made the mistake of smiling at our waiter when he refilled my wine glass. Damon waited until we were back in the room. Then he grabbed my arm so hard it left bruises that I covered with bracelets for the rest of the trip. "Don't disrespect me like that again," he said, his voice calm, his eyes anything but. "Do you understand?" I nodded, and that was the first time I realized I wasn't just trapped. I was in danger. The physical abuse became regular after we returned from Bali. Not constant, not predictable, just frequent enough to keep me on edge. A shove here, a slap there. Once He threw a glass that shattered against the wall inches from my head, always followed by apologies, flowers, promises to change. I don't know what came over me. I love you so much. You just make me so crazy sometimes. I'll do better. I swear. And I believed him. Or maybe I just needed to believe him. Because the alternative, admitting that I'd married a man who was systematically destroying me, was too painful to face. By 2020, I'd quit my job. Damon said it was unnecessary for me to work, that he made more than enough money to support us both, that I should focus on the house, on starting a family soon, on being the kind of wife he deserved. What he really meant was, I want you isolated. I want you dependent. I want you with no escape route. And I let him do it, because by then I didn't recognize myself anymore. The woman I used to be, confident, independent, full of dreams, she was gone, replaced by this shell who walked on eggshells, who measured every word, who flinched at sudden movements, who spent hours trying to anticipate his moods and prevent his anger. I became an expert at reading his face, his tone, the set of his shoulders when he walked through the door. I could tell within seconds whether tonight would be good or bad, and on the bad nights I made myself small, quiet, invisible, hoping that if I didn't take up space, he'd forget I was there. The years blurred together. Abuse has a way of making time meaningless. Days become survival. Weeks become endurance. Years become a question you stop asking. How did I end up here? Because the answer is too complicated, too shameful. I stayed because I had nowhere to go. No job, no savings he didn't control, no friends left to call. I stayed because he told me no one would believe me, that he was respected, successful, that I was unstable, emotional, crazy. I stayed because he said if I ever left, he'd kill me, and I believed him. But something shifted in 2024. I don't know what. Maybe I just reached a limit I didn't know I had. Maybe I realized that staying would kill me just as surely as leaving might. Or maybe I just got tired of being afraid. In October 2024, I started planning. Secretly, carefully. I opened a bank account in my maiden name. Started transferring small amounts of money from the household account Damon let me access. $20 here, $50 there. Amounts small enough he wouldn't notice. I researched divorce lawyers, found one who specialized in domestic violence cases, made an appointment for a consultation. I packed a bag and hid it in the back of my closet. Just essentials, clothes, documents, jewelry I could sell. And on November 20th, 2024, I made the call. I need to leave my husband, I told the lawyer, and I need to do it safely. She scheduled me for an intake meeting, November 25th, 2 days after Thanksgiving. I thought I had time. I thought I was being careful. But Damon found the lawyer's card in my wallet. And 3 days later, I was standing in his mother's living room, watching my humiliation play out on a screen, while my family watched and my world collapsed. That was the moment everything changed, not because he broke me, but because he gave me something I'd lost years ago: clarity. I finally understood that Damon would never let me go, not quietly, not willingly, not without destroying me first. And if I was going to survive, truly survive, not just exist in this state of perpetual fear, I had to destroy him first. November 23rd, 2024. Earlier that day, I woke up that morning knowing something was wrong. Damon was in too good a mood. He'd been cold to me since finding the lawyer's card 3 days earlier, sleeping in the guest room, barely speaking, just staring at me with those dead eyes that promised consequences I couldn't imagine. But that morning, he was humming in the shower, whistling while he got dressed. "Excited for Thanksgiving?" he asked, buttoning his shirt in the mirror. I was sitting on the bed, watching him, trying to read him. "Sure," I said carefully. "Good." He smiled at me. That smile, the one that used to make my stomach flip but now just made my skin crawl. "It's going to be a day we'll never forget." I should have known then, should have seen it coming. But I was too focused on surviving the next 24 hours to think about what he might be planning. We arrived at his mother's house at 2 in the afternoon. The whole family was already there. His parents, his sister, Crystal, and her husband, his brother Travis with his wife and their 2 kids. My parents arrived 30 minutes later. My mother hugged me too tight, held on too long. "You look tired, sweetheart," she whispered. "Are you sleeping okay?" "I'm fine, Mom," I lied. I'd gotten good at lying, good at pretending everything was normal, that my marriage was fine, that I wasn't dying inside. We gathered in the living room while Damon's mother, Angela, finished cooking. The kids played with toys on the floor. The men talked about football. The women made small talk about work and holiday plans, and anything except the truth. That this family had raised a monster. That they all knew what he was, but chose to look away because it was easier than confronting it. Damon sat in his father's leather recliner like a king on a throne, holding court, telling stories from work, making everyone laugh, playing the role of the golden child. And I sat on the couch next to my mother, smiling when I was supposed to smile, nodding when I was supposed to nod, slowly suffocating under the weight of the performance. Dinner was at 4. Turkey, ham, sweet, potatoes, macaroni and cheese, collard greens, cornbread, all of Angela's specialties. We sat around the long dining table, 12 of us crammed together, passing dishes, filling plates, pretending to be grateful. Damon sat at the head of the table, his father's spot, a position he'd claimed the moment we got married. Another tradition, he'd said when his father objected the first time. Passing the torch to the next generation. His father had backed down. Everyone always backed down with Damon. I picked at my food. Couldn't eat. My stomach was in knots. Something was coming. I could feel it. Damon kept glancing at me across the table, that smile playing at the corners of his mouth, like he knew a secret, like he was counting down to something. "You okay, Naomi?" Crystal asked. "You're not eating." "I'm fine," I said automatically. "Just not that hungry." "She's been feeling under the weather," Damon said smoothly, reaching across the table to pat my hand, a gesture that looked loving but felt like a threat. "Haven't you, baby?" I nodded. His fingers tightened on mine, just for a second, just enough to hurt. Then he let go. After dinner, everyone moved to the living room. Angela wanted us to watch the Cowboys game before dessert. She'd been a fan since childhood, and Thanksgiving without football was sacrilege in her house. We settled into our spots. The men claimed the good seats. The women took the couch. The kids sprawled on the floor with coloring books and tablets. Damon had the remote. He always had the remote. "Let me just get it set up," he said, clicking through menus on the smart TV. I was in the kitchen helping Angela cut pies when I heard it. That sound, my voice, moaning. At first I thought I was imagining it, some kind of stress-induced hallucination. But then I heard his voice too, Damon's, saying things, graphic things, and I knew. I don't remember walking into the living room. Don't remember my legs moving or my feet carrying me or anything except the sudden overwhelming sensation of falling, even though I was still standing. There I was, on the 70-inch screen mounted above Angela's fireplace, naked, on my back, Damon above me. The camera angled from the nightstand where I'd never noticed anything recording. Because I hadn't known he was filming, hadn't consented, hadn't agreed to any of this being captured and stored and weaponized. The room was frozen, everyone staring, no one moving. The video kept playing, 30 seconds, a minute, longer. Travis finally grabbed for the remote, pressed buttons frantically. Nothing happened. "It's not working," he said, his voice tight, because Damon had disabled it, had programmed the video to play straight through. No pauses, no stops, just my body, my face, my most intimate moments on display for my parents and his siblings and their children. I turned and looked at him. He was still sitting in that leather recliner, not moving, not pretending to be shocked or embarrassed or concerned, just watching me, smiling. And in his eyes, I saw exactly what this was: payment for trying to leave, for daring to think I could escape, for calling that lawyer and packing that bag and believing I had any power at all. This was him reminding me who I belonged to. This was him showing me what happened when I forgot my place. Someone, Angela, I think, found the TV's power button and killed the screen. The silence afterward was worse than the video. No one knew where to look, what to say. My mother was crying, quiet, devastating sobs that shook her whole body. My father looked like he wanted to kill someone. Maybe Damon, maybe me for putting him in this position. Crystal had her hand over her mouth, eyes wide with something between horror and disgust. The kids were confused, asking why everyone was upset, why Grandma was crying, and I just stood there, unable to move, unable to speak, unable to process what had just happened. Angela's voice cut through the silence. "Damon, what is this? How did that—" "Technical glitch," Damon said, standing up slowly, stretching, like this was all so boring. Must have been a mix-up with the streaming service. He was lying, obviously, blatantly, but no one called him on it. My father stood, his whole body shaking. "We're leaving," he said to my mother. She looked at me, her face a mixture of pity and something else I couldn't name. Shame? Disappointment? "Honey," she whispered, "come with us." I wanted to run out that door and never come back, but my legs wouldn't move. Damon was watching me, waiting, daring me to try. So I just stood there while my parents left, while his family made excuses and scattered, while Angela told us to work it out because marriage is hard. And then it was just us, me and him, alone. "You thought you could leave me," he said quietly, walking toward me. "You thought you could embarrass me, humiliate me with lawyers and restraining orders." I couldn't speak. That video, I have copies everywhere: cloud storage, external drives, email accounts. And if you try to leave again, he leaned in close, his breath hot on my face, "I'll send it to everyone, your old coworkers, your college friends. Everyone you've ever known will see what a whore you are." He pulled back. "So here's what's going to happen. You're going home, you're unpacking that bag, and we're going to pretend tonight never happened." He walked toward the door, stopped. "Oh, and Naomi? Happy Thanksgiving." Then he was gone. And I stood there in that empty living room with something inside me that had been bending for 6 years, finally hardening into something else. Something cold, something sharp, something that whispered, "He's going to pay for this." November 23rd, 2024, 11:47 p.m. I didn't go home. I got in my car, the one Damon let me drive, the one he paid for, the one with the GPS tracker he thought I didn't know about. And I drove. No destination, no plan. Just driving through empty Atlanta suburbs with tears streaming down my face and my hands gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles turned white. I drove until I couldn't see anymore, until the tears blurred everything into streaks of light and darkness. Then I pulled into a Walmart parking lot and sat there in the dark with the engine running and asked myself a question I'd been avoiding for 6 years. How do I survive this? Not how do I leave him? Not how do I escape? How do I survive? Because leaving would kill me. He'd made that clear. He had the video. He had the resources. He had a reputation to protect, and no moral limits on what he'd do to protect it. But staying would kill me too. Slower, more painfully. One day at a time until there was nothing left of Naomi Blake except a hollow shell playing the role of Damon Jennings' wife. So how do I survive? The answer came to me slowly, like a voice rising from some deep place inside me I didn't know existed. You don't survive him. You destroy him. I sat with that thought for a long time. Destroy him. Not hurt him. Not embarrass him. Not get even. Destroy him so completely that he could never hurt me or anyone else again. The idea should have scared me. Should have felt wrong, immoral, excessive. But all I felt was clarity. Cold, sharp, perfect clarity. Damon had spent 6 years taking pieces of me. My independence, my confidence, my friends, my career, my dignity. Tonight he'd taken the last thing I had left, my privacy, my body, my right to exist without shame. He'd taken everything. So I would take everything from him. I pulled out my phone and opened a new note, typed at the top, "Things that can destroy Damon Jennings." Then I started writing. Everything I knew. Everything I'd seen, everything I'd heard during 6 years of marriage to a man who thought I was too broken to be a threat. 1. The offshore accounts. Damon had been hiding money for years. I'd seen the statements once when he left his laptop open. Cayman Islands, Luxembourg, places that don't ask questions. He was committing tax fraud, probably embezzling from his own company. 2. The affairs, plural, at least 3 that I knew about, maybe more. He thought I didn't notice the late nights, the hotel receipts he forgot to throw away, the perfume on his collar that wasn't mine. I had names, dates, text messages I had photographed when he was in the shower. 3. The business partner he screwed over. 2 years ago, Damon forced his partner, a man named Gerald Thompson, out of their consulting firm. Forged signatures, manipulated contracts, stole clients. Gerald threatened to sue, then suddenly dropped everything and moved to Florida. I never knew why, but I remembered the night Damon came home, smiling and said, "Gerald's not a problem anymore." 4. His mother's house. The one we'd just left. The one Angela was so proud of. Damon bought it for her 5 years ago. Told her it was a gift. But I'd seen the deed, seen his name on it, not hers. He owned it, could take it away anytime he wanted. Angela didn't know. None of his family knew. 5. The video of me. The one he showed tonight. He thought it was power. Proof he could humiliate me anytime he wanted. But it was also evidence. Proof he'd recorded me without consent, distributed intimate images without permission. That was a crime in Georgia, a felony, revenge porn laws. I'd looked them up once, late at night when I couldn't sleep. 6. The abuse. I had documentation, not much, but some. Photos of bruises I'd hidden in a cloud account he didn't know about. Text messages where he apologized after hitting me. A video I'd recorded once of him screaming at me, throwing things. I'd been too scared to use any of it before, but I wasn't scared anymore. By the time I finished the list, it was after midnight. 23 items total. 23 weapons I could use to dismantle Damon's life piece by piece. But I needed help. Needed someone who knew how to weaponize information. Someone who understood the legal system and the media and how to destroy a man's reputation so thoroughly he could never recover. I thought about calling a lawyer, but lawyers are bound by ethics, rules, procedures that take time I didn't have. I needed someone else, someone ruthless. I opened Google and typed, "Private investigators, Atlanta domestic violence." Dozens of results, firms with glossy websites and professional headshots and testimonials from satisfied clients. I scrolled until I found one that felt different. Kendra Ross Investigations. Her website was simple. No stock photos, no corporate polish. Just a headshot of a black woman in her 40s with sharp eyes and a no-bullshit expression. Her bio was one paragraph. "I specialize in cases other investigators won't touch. Domestic abuse, stalking, harassment. If someone is making your life hell and the system won't help you, call me. I will." I called her cell phone, listed right there on the website. She answered on the third ring. Kendra Ross. Her voice was gravelly, tired, like she'd been woken up, which she probably had been. It was 12:30 a.m. "My name is Naomi," I said, "and I need help destroying my husband." Silence. Then, "Keep talking." I told her everything, the abuse, the control, the video, tonight's humiliation, and the list, 23 ways to dismantle Damon Jennings. Kendra listened without interrupting. I could hear her breathing on the other end, the sound of a pen scratching paper. When I finished, she was quiet for a moment. "You understand what you're asking for," she finally said. "This isn't divorce. This isn't separation. You're talking about total destruction." "Yes, it's going to cost money, a lot of money, probably more than you have. I'll find it. It's going to take time, months maybe, and..." He's going to fight back. Men like him always do. "I know." Another pause. "And when it's done," Kendra said, her voice softer now, "you might not recognize yourself. Revenge changes people, hardens them. You sure you want to become that person?" I thought about that question, thought about the woman I used to be. Confident, kind, trusting. That woman was already dead, killed in a living room in Alpharetta while her own family watched. The woman I was now. I didn't know her yet, but I knew she was capable of things the old Naomi would have called unforgivable, and I was okay with that. "I'm sure," I said. Kendra exhaled. "Okay, meet me tomorrow, 10 a.m. There's a coffee shop in Midtown called Java House. You know it. I'll find it. Come alone. Don't tell anyone. And Naomi?" "Yeah? If you're having second thoughts, now's the time to walk away. Once we start this, there's no stopping, no going back. You understand?" I looked at my phone, at the list I'd made. 23 ways to destroy a man who'd spent 6 years destroying me. "I understand," I said. "Good. See you tomorrow." She hung up. I sat in that Walmart parking lot for another hour, thinking. planning, preparing myself for what came next. Finally, around 2 a.m., I started the car and drove home. To the penthouse condo I shared with my husband, the one with floor-to-ceiling windows and lake views and evidence of a perfect life scattered everywhere for no one to see. Damon was asleep in our bed when I walked in, snoring softly, peaceful, like he hadn't just committed the worst violation imaginable, like he'd already forgotten. I stood in the doorway and watched him for a long time, and I made a promise. You're going to regret this, every single second of it, and by the time I'm done, you're going to wish you'd let me leave. Then I went to the guest room, locked the door, and started researching. Everything I'd need to become the kind of woman who could destroy Damon Jennings, and everything I'd need to survive what I was about to become. If you're still with me, comment, "I'm still here," and hit the subscribe button because what happens next is going to change everything. Naomi isn't a victim anymore. She's become something far more dangerous. November 24th, 2024. 10:09 a.m. Java House, Midtown Atlanta. Kendra Ross didn't look like what I expected. Not that I knew what a private investigator was supposed to look like, but I'd imagined someone harder, colder, someone who looked like they'd seen the worst of humanity and stopped caring. Kendra looked tired. She was sitting in the back corner of the coffee shop when I arrived, nursing a black coffee, wearing jeans and a leather jacket. Her hair was natural, pulled back in a low ponytail. No makeup. Dark circles under her eyes like she hadn't slept well in years. She looked up when I walked in, nodded once. I ordered a tea I wouldn't drink and sat down across from her. "You came," she said. "You thought I wouldn't?" Most people don't. They call in the middle of the night full of rage and righteousness. Then they sleep on it, wake up scared, talk themselves out of it. She studied my face. "But you don't look scared." "I'm terrified," I admitted. "But I'm more terrified of staying." Kendra nodded slowly. "Good. Fear keeps you sharp, makes you careful." She pulled out a leather notebook, flipped it open. "I wrote down everything you told me last night. 23 different angles to destroy your husband. That's ambitious." "Is it enough?" "It's more than enough, but we need to prioritize, figure out which ones hit hardest and which ones we can actually prove." She clicked her pen. "Let's start with the offshore accounts. You said you saw statements?" "Once, 2 years ago." He left his laptop open. "Did you photograph them?" I shook my head. "I didn't think to. I was just curious, trying to understand why we had so much money, but I couldn't access any of it." Kendra made a note. "Okay, that's recoverable. I have contacts who can trace financial records. It'll take time and money, but if he's hiding assets, we'll find them." She looked up. "The affairs, you said you have names?" 3 women, Miranda Powell. She works at his firm. They've been sleeping together for at least a year. I pulled out my phone, showed Kendra the screenshots I'd saved, text messages, hotel receipts, credit card charges at jewelry stores. "There's also someone named Vanessa. I don't know her last name, and a woman he met at a conference in Miami last year." Kendra studied the evidence. "This is good, really good. Adultery isn't illegal, but it plays well in divorce court. And if Miranda works for him, there could be workplace harassment implications." She kept writing. "What about the business partner, Gerald Thompson? Damon forced him out of the company 2 years ago. Something about breach of contract, but I heard them arguing once. Gerald said Damon forged his signature on documents, stole clients, destroyed his reputation. And Gerald just walked away. That's what I thought was strange. One day they're fighting, the next, Gerald's gone, moved to Florida, no lawsuit, no public dispute, nothing. Kendra tapped her pen against the notebook, which means Damon either paid him off or threatened him, maybe both. She made another note. If we can find Gerald, get him to talk. That's criminal fraud. That's not just divorce court. That's prison time. We spent 3 hours in that coffee shop, going through every item on my list, assessing what we could prove, what we needed to investigate, what was leverage and what was noise. By the time we finished, Kendra had divided everything into 3 phases. Phase 1, financial destruction. Expose the offshore accounts, the tax fraud, the embezzlement. Get the IRS involved. Get his firm's board involved. Destroy his professional reputation. Money is power, Kendra explained. We take his money, we take his power. Phase 2, social destruction. Expose the affairs, the abuse, the revenge porn. Get his family to turn against him. Get his friends to abandon him. Make him toxic. Men like Damon care about their image, Kendra said. How people see them, what people think. We ruin that. We ruin him. Phase 3, legal destruction. Build a case, file charges for the revenge porn, pursue the fraud, get restraining orders, press criminal charges if possible. This is the end game, Kendra said. We want him facing years in prison. We want him losing everything, his money, his freedom, his future. She looked at me. But I need to be clear about something. This is war. And in war, people get hurt, including you. Are you ready for that? I thought about the video, about my parents' faces, about Damon's smile. Yes, I said. Kendra laid out what came next. First, I needed money. Real money, enough to pay for investigations, lawyers, experts. How much are we talking? I asked. 50,000 minimum, probably more. I felt my stomach drop. I don't have that. You will. We're going to drain his accounts before he knows what's happening. She explained her plan. I still had access to the household account, the one Damon let me use for groceries and gas and other acceptable expenses. Start transferring money, Kendra said. Not large amounts, nothing that'll trigger alerts. 500 here, 1,000 there. Spread it across multiple accounts. Use your maiden name. Banks he doesn't know about. What if he notices? He won't, not right away. Men like him don't pay attention to household expenses. They think it's beneath them. She slid a piece of paper across the table. Bank names, account numbers, routing information. These are clean accounts, no connection to me or you. Use them. Second, I needed evidence. Everything you told me about, the bruises, the text messages, the video, I need copies of all of it. He has the video, I said. I don't. But he uploaded it somewhere to play it on that TV, which means it's in his cloud storage, his computer, somewhere we can access it. She leaned forward. Do you have his passwords? Some of them. He uses the same one for most things. Perfect. Tonight when he's asleep, I need you to get into his laptop. Find that video. Find anything else he's hiding. Download it all to a thumb drive. My hands started shaking. What if he wakes up? Then you tell him you couldn't sleep, wanted to watch TV, whatever. But Naomi, this is critical. We need that video as evidence. Without it, the revenge porn charge won't stick. Third, I needed to document everything going forward. From now on, you record every conversation, every argument, every threat. Georgia is a one-party consent state, which means you can legally record without his knowledge. She handed me a small device. Looked like a USB drive. Voice-activated recorder. Keep it on you at all times. If he threatens you, if he hits you, if he says anything incriminating, we'll have it. By the time we finished, I had a plan, a timeline, a strategy. Phase 1 would begin immediately, draining accounts, gathering evidence. Phase 2 would start in 2 weeks. Once we had everything we needed, Phase 3 would be the finale, the courtroom, the charges, the end. How long will this take? I asked. 3 months, maybe 4. Depends on how fast we can build the case. 3 months. 3 more months of living with him, pretending everything was fine, playing the role of the obedient wife while secretly preparing for his destruction. I can do that, I said. Kendra looked at me for a long moment. Then she reached across the table and squeezed my hand. I believe you can, she said. But Naomi, once we start this, there's no stopping. He's going to fight back. He's going to hurt you, maybe worse than he already has. You sure you want to do this? I thought about my mother's face, my father's, the silence in that living room. I thought about 6 years of being made small, being made afraid, being made to believe I deserved this. I thought about Damon's smile. I'm sure, I said. I left the coffee shop with a thumb drive in my pocket, a recording device in my purse, and a plan that felt both terrifying and liberating. For 6 years, I'd been reacting to Damon, surviving him, adapting to him, but not anymore. Now I was hunting him, and he had no idea. November 24th, 2024, 11:47 p.m. That night I waited until Damon fell asleep. He'd been drinking scotch, 3 glasses, enough to make him drowsy. I lay beside him in the dark, listening to his breathing slow, waiting. When I was sure he was deep asleep, I slipped out of bed, grabbed his laptop from the living room, took it to the bathroom, locked the door, opened it. His password hadn't changed, still the same one he'd been using for years. I found the video immediately, in a folder labeled Insurance, along with dozens of other files, documents, photos, videos, evidence of everything I suspected and things I hadn't even imagined. Affairs with at least 6 women, not 3. Financial records showing money moving to offshore accounts every month. Emails between him and someone named Victor discussing taking care of Gerald. And photos. Photos of me, sleeping, showering, dressing. He'd been documenting me, watching me, even when I thought I was alone. I felt bile rise in my throat, but I didn't stop. I plugged in the thumb drive Kendra gave me, downloaded everything, every file, every photo, every piece of evidence. It took 20 minutes. 20 minutes where my heart was hammering so hard I thought it might wake him. But it didn't. When the transfer finished, I deleted the browsing history, closed the laptop, put it back exactly where I'd found it. Then I went back to bed, lay there in the dark next to my husband, the man who'd spent 6 years destroying me. And I smiled, because now I had everything I needed to destroy him back. December 1st, 2024. 1 week later, I became someone else, not overnight, not dramatically, just slowly, deliberately, methodically. I woke up every morning and played the role of Damon's wife, made coffee, asked about his day, smiled when he wanted me to smile, stayed quiet when he wanted silence. But underneath, I was working, transferring money in small amounts, $700 here, $1,000 there, spreading it across 4 different accounts Kendra had set up. By the end of the first week, I'd moved $18,000. Damon never noticed. He checked the household account maybe once a month. And even then, he just glanced at the balance, never looked at individual transactions. He trusted that I was too broken to betray him. That was his first mistake. December 3rd, 2024. Kendra called me while Damon was at work. "I found Gerald Thompson," she said. "He's in Tampa, running a small consulting business, barely making ends meet." "Did you talk to him?" "Not yet. I wanted to check with you first. Because once I approach him, there's no putting this back in the box. He'll know someone's investigating Damon." I thought about it for maybe 3 seconds. "Do it," I said. December 5th, 2024. Kendra flew to Tampa. I stayed home, cleaned the condo, did laundry, cooked dinner, played the role. She called me that night at 9:47 p.m. "I met with Gerald," she said. "Took him 4 hours to start talking. But once he started, he couldn't stop." "What did he say?" "Everything. Damon forged his signature on contracts to steal clients, emptied their business account into his personal accounts, then threatened to destroy Gerald's reputation if he fought back." "How?" "Damon had photos. Gerald with another man. Gerald's married, has kids, conservative family. He couldn't risk it getting out." My stomach turned. So, Damon blackmailed him. Blackmail, fraud, theft. Gerald has documentation, emails, bank records. He's been holding onto it for 2 years, waiting for someone to believe him. "Will he testify?" Kendra was quiet for a moment. "He wants to, but he's scared. Scared of Damon, scared of what it'll cost him." "Tell him I'll pay his legal fees," I said. "Whatever it takes, tell him he's not alone anymore." December 10th, 2024. Phase 1 was moving faster than I expected. Kendra had hired a forensic accountant named Brian who specialized in finding hidden assets. Within a week, he'd traced Damon's offshore accounts, 3 accounts in the Cayman Islands, 1 in Luxembourg, 1 in Switzerland. Total, $2.3 million. Money Damon had been hiding from the IRS, from his business partners, from me. "This is enough," Kendra said when she showed me the report. "Enough to destroy him financially. Enough to get him audited. Possibly enough for criminal charges." "When do we use it?" "Not yet. We need everything lined up first. Financial destruction, social destruction, legal destruction, all at once, so he can't recover." But I couldn't wait for everything. I needed him to feel it, needed him to know something was wrong, even if he didn't know what yet. So I made my first move. December 12th, 2024. Miranda Powell, the woman Damon had been sleeping with for over a year, his employee, his assistant, the one he'd taken to Chicago for a business conference last spring. I knew where she lived, had followed her once, months ago, when my suspicions first started. I drove to her apartment building in Buckhead, waited in my car until she came home from work. Then I walked up to her door and knocked. She answered wearing yoga pants and a tank top, hair pulled back, glass of wine in her hand. "Can I help you?" she asked, not recognizing me. "I'm Naomi Jennings," I said, "Damon's wife." Her face went pale. "I'm not here to fight," I continued. "I'm here to give you something." I handed her a manila envelope. "What is this?" "Photos, text messages, hotel receipts, everything documenting your affair with my husband." Miranda's hand shook as she took the envelope. "Why are you giving this to me?" "Because you're not the only one. There are 5 other women, maybe more. And I thought you should know." I turned to leave. "Wait," Miranda said. I didn't know he was married. Not at first. By the time I found out, I was already in love with him, I finished. She nodded, tears in her eyes. He's not who you think he is, I said quietly. He's a liar, an abuser, a manipulator, and he will destroy you the same way he destroyed me. I left her standing in the doorway holding that envelope. By the next morning, Miranda had quit her job. By the afternoon, she'd filed a complaint with HR claiming Damon had coerced her into a relationship by promising promotions she never received. I didn't tell her to do that, but I knew she would, because women like Miranda, women who've been used and lied to, they want revenge too. December 15th, 2024. Damon came home furious. Miranda quit, he said, throwing his briefcase on the floor. Just walked out. No notice, nothing. That's awful, I said, stirring pasta on the stove. Did she say why? Some bullshit about a hostile work environment. She filed a complaint with HR, accused me of inappropriate conduct. He was pacing, agitated. It's ridiculous. I never touched her, never did anything inappropriate. I kept my face neutral. I'm sure HR will clear it up. They better. This could ruin my reputation, cost me clients. I served him dinner, listened to him rant about ungrateful employees and vindictive women, and how hard it was to run a business. And the whole time, I was thinking, this is just the beginning. December 18th, 2024. The second strike came 3 days later. Kendra had been tracking Damon's movements. She knew his routine, knew he went to the same gym every morning at 6 a.m. She also knew that Travis, Damon's brother, used the same gym. So she arranged for Travis to find something, a burner phone, left in Damon's gym locker. Travis found it, opened it, saw text messages between Damon and multiple women. Not just Miranda, the others too. Explicit messages, photos, videos. Travis confronted Damon in the parking lot that morning. I know because Damon came home at 7:30 a.m. instead of 8:30, slammed the door so hard it shook the walls. Your brother called, I said carefully. He sounded upset. My brother is an idiot, Damon snapped, sticking his nose where it doesn't belong. What happened? Nothing. Mind your business. But I already knew what happened. Travis had called Angela, told her what he found, told her that her golden son was cheating on his wife. Angela called Crystal. Crystal called their father. By noon, Damon's entire family knew. December 20th, 2024. Angela called me. Naomi, she said, her voice thick with something that might have been sympathy. I need to talk to you. Okay. Is it true? What Travis said about Damon and other women? I could have lied, could have protected him, could have played the loyal wife, but I didn't. Yes, I said simply. It's true. Silence. How long have you known? A while. And you stayed? I almost laughed. What choice did I have? He controls everything, the money, the house, my life. More silence. Then, I'm so sorry, I didn't know. I didn't realize. You didn't want to realize, I said, and my voice was colder than I intended. None of you did. You all saw who he was. You just chose to look away. I hung up before she could respond. December 22nd, 2024. Damon's world was starting to crack. His firm put him on administrative leave while they investigated Miranda's complaint. His family was barely speaking to him. His brother Travis had stopped returning his calls. And he had no idea why it was all happening at once. He thought it was bad luck, coincidence, a rough patch. He didn't realize it was me, that every crack in his foundation was something I'd carefully, deliberately created. He was unraveling, and I was just getting started. December 23rd, 2024, 11:15 p.m. Damon had been drinking. Whiskey, straight, 4 glasses. He was angry, paranoid, pacing the living room, ranting about conspiracies and people out to get him. "Someone's doing this," he said. "Someone's sabotaging me. The timing is too perfect. Miranda quits the same week that phone shows up. My family turns on me. The firm puts me on leave." He turned to look at me. "Do you know anything about this?" My heart hammered, but I kept my voice steady. "How would I know anything? I'm here all day, alone." He stared at me for a long time. Then he walked over, grabbed my arm, squeezed hard enough to bruise. "If I find out you had anything to do with this—" "You'll what?" I asked quietly. His eyes widened, surprised, because I'd never talked back before, never challenged him, never shown anything except fear. "What did you say?" I said, "You'll what, Damon? Hit me? Humiliate me? You already did that in front of my family. So what else is there?" His grip tightened. "You think you're smart? Think you're tough now?" "No," I said. "I just stopped being afraid." He shoved me backward. I caught myself on the couch. "You don't get to stop being afraid," he said. "I own you. I own this life. Everything you have is because of me." The recording device in my pocket was capturing every word. "Then take it," I said. "Take everything. See if I care." He looked at me like I was a stranger. Maybe I was. The woman he married, the one who'd been easy to control, easy to break, she was gone. And the woman standing in front of him now? She was something else entirely. He left that night, drove to a hotel, didn't come back until the next afternoon. And when he walked through the door, he looked smaller somehow, diminished, like he could feel the walls closing in even if he didn't understand why. I watched him from the kitchen, thought about everything Kendra and I had planned, everything still to come. Phase 1 was almost complete. His finances exposed, his reputation cracking, his family turning away. Phase 2 would begin after Christmas. The social destruction, the public humiliation, turning his world against him the way he turned mine. And Phase 3? That was the endgame. The courtroom, the charges, the complete and total annihilation of everything he'd built. I smiled. Damon saw it and frowned. "What are you smiling about?" "Nothing," I said. "Just thinking about how nice it'll be to spend the holidays with family." He didn't know that I'd already accepted an invitation to my parents' house for Christmas. Didn't know I was leaving him alone. Didn't know that while he sat in this empty condo wondering where everything went wrong, I'd be with Kendra finalizing Phase 2. He'd spent 6 years making me small, but I wasn't small anymore. I was the architect of his destruction, and he still had no idea. December 25th, 2024, Christmas Day, my parents' house. I spent Christmas morning watching my nephew open presents. He was 4 years old, still believed in Santa Claus, still thought the world was magical and safe and full of people who would protect him. I envied that innocence. My mother watched me from across the room. She'd been doing that since I arrived Christmas Eve, watching me like I might disappear if she looked away. We hadn't talked about Thanksgiving, about the video, about what happened in Angela's living room, but it hung between us like a ghost. After lunch, while my father and brother-in-law watched football, and my sister put her son down for a nap, my mother finally pulled me aside. "Come help me with dishes," she said. It wasn't a request. We stood at the kitchen sink in silence for a few minutes. Her washing, Me drying. Then she said, "Are you leaving him?" I set down the plate I was holding. "Yes." She nodded slowly, kept washing. "Good." That was all. Just good. Not, "Are you sure?" Not, "Marriage is hard." Not, "Have you tried counseling?" Just good. "I should have left years ago," I said quietly. "Yes," my mother agreed. "You should have, but you're leaving now. That's what matters." She handed me another dish. What he did at Thanksgiving, showing that video. Her voice cracked. "I wanted to kill him. Your father had to stop me from going back inside, and—" She stopped, took a breath. "I'm sorry we left you there. I'm sorry we didn't make you come with us. I've been thinking about that every day since." "It's not your fault." "I know, but I still should have protected you better. Should have seen what he was years ago." I dried the dish in my hands, focusing on the motion to keep from crying. "I'm handling it," I said. "I have a plan." My mother looked at me, really looked at me. "What kind of plan?" I thought about telling her, about Kendra and Gerald and the offshore accounts and everything we'd discovered. But I didn't, because the less she knew, the safer she'd be. "The kind that makes sure he never hurts anyone again," I said. My mother studied my face for a long moment. Then she pulled me into a hug so tight I could barely breathe. "Whatever you need," she whispered. "Money, a place to stay, a lawyer, anything, you just ask." "I will," I promised, but I already had everything I needed. December 26th, 2024, 9 a.m., Kendra's office. I met Kendra the morning after Christmas at her office in a strip mall off Piedmont Road. The office was small, cluttered, walls covered with whiteboards and photos and strings of evidence connecting dots I didn't fully understand. She had a coffee waiting for me. "How was Christmas?" she asked. "Better than Thanksgiving?" She smiled. "Low bar." I sat down. "Where are we?" Kendra pulled out a file folder, thick, bursting with documents. Phase 1 is complete. We have everything we need on his finances. Brian sent his report to the IRS 3 days ago. They're opening an investigation. My stomach flipped. Really? Really? Tax fraud, offshore accounts, unreported income. Damon's looking at serious penalties, maybe even criminal charges if they can prove intent. How long before he knows? Couple weeks, maybe a month. The IRS moves slow, but when they move hard. She flipped through the folder. Gerald signed an affidavit. He's willing to testify about the fraud, the forged signatures, the stolen clients. That's ammunition for a criminal case. And Miranda. Her complaint triggered an internal investigation at Damon's firm. They've been interviewing other employees. Turns out Miranda wasn't the only one. 3 other women have come forward claiming inappropriate conduct. I felt a surge of satisfaction. 3 others? 3 others. The firm's board is meeting next week to discuss his future. My guess? They'll force him out. Too much liability. Kendra closed the folder. We're ready for Phase 2. Phase 2 was about destroying Damon socially, making him toxic, turning his world against him, ensuring that everywhere he went, everyone he met, they'd know what he was. "How do we do that?" I asked. Kendra smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. "We tell the truth, publicly, loudly, everywhere." She pulled out her laptop, opened a document. "I've been working with a journalist. Her name is Simone Parker. She writes for the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, investigative pieces, exposés on powerful men who abuse their positions. You want me to talk to a reporter? I want you to tell your story, everything, the abuse, the control, the video, on the record, with your name attached. My hands started shaking. Everyone will know. My family, my old friends, everyone. Yes, Kendra said. They will. But here's the thing. They already know about the video. Damon made sure of that. What they don't know is the context. That you didn't consent to being recorded. That he used it to punish you. That this is part of a pattern of abuse that's been going on for years. She leaned forward. Right now, you're the woman in the video, the object, the victim. But if you tell your story, really tell it, you become the survivor, the hero, the woman who fought back. I thought about that. Thought about my name in a newspaper, my story on the internet forever. Everyone knowing the worst, most humiliating moments of my life. But then I thought about other women. Women still trapped in relationships like mine. Women who thought they were alone. Women who needed to see that fighting back was possible. Okay, I said. I'll do it. December 28th, 2024. Interview day. Simone Parker met me at a quiet restaurant in Virginia Highland. She was younger than I expected, maybe 35. Black woman with natural hair and kind eyes that had seen enough suffering to understand. Thank you for agreeing to this, she said as we sat down. Thank you for listening. She pulled out a recorder. Do I have your permission to record this conversation? Yes, she pressed record. Tell me about Damon Jennings. And I did. I told her everything, how we met, how charming he was, how slowly the control started, the isolation, the monitoring, the accusations, the first time he hit me, the bruises I covered, the excuses I made, the video, the humiliation, the way he used my body as a weapon against me. I talked for 2 hours. By the end, Simone had filled an entire notebook, and the recorder had captured every word. This is going to be a big story, Simone said quietly. People are going to have opinions. Some will support you, some won't. Are you prepared for that? No, I admitted, but I'm doing it anyway. She nodded. The article will run January 2nd, New Year, new beginning. How will Damon react? Badly. Men like him don't handle exposure well, especially public exposure. He'll probably threaten to sue. Might threaten you. I have a restraining order ready to file, I said, the moment the article drops. Simone smiled. You've thought this through. I've had help. December 30th, 2024. The calm before the storm. I went home that night knowing everything was about to change. The article would publish in 3 days. The IRS investigation would go public within weeks. Gerald's testimony would surface. The firm would force Damon out. His family already knew about the affairs. His reputation was already crumbling. And I was about to become the face of his destruction. Damon was in the living room when I walked in, watching TV, drinking. He barely looked at me. Where were you? He asked. Out. Out where? Does it matter? He turned to look at me then. Eyes narrowed. You've been different lately. Different how? Less afraid, more defiant, like you think you have power or something. I set down my purse, met his eyes. Maybe I do. He stood up, walked toward me. You don't have power, Naomi. You have nothing. No job, no money, no friends. Everything you are exists because I allow it. Is that what you tell yourself? His jaw clenched. What's that supposed to mean? It means you're about to find out that I'm not as powerless as you think. He grabbed my arm, not hard enough to hurt, just hard enough to remind me he could. What did you do? He said quietly. Nothing yet. I lied. But I'm going to. You're going to what? Leave me? File for divorce? Try to take half my money? I pulled my arm free. I'm going to destroy you, I said calmly, piece by piece, until there's nothing left. He laughed, actually laughed. You? Destroy me? Baby, you don't have the spine for that? I smiled. We'll see. I went to the guest room that night, locked the door, lay in bed staring at the ceiling. My phone buzzed. Text from Kendra. Everything's in place. Article drops Thursday. Restraining order is filed Friday morning. You ready? I typed back, ready. Another text. He's going to come at you hard. Stay safe. Stay smart. Don't engage. I won't. And Naomi? Yeah? You're the bravest client I've ever had. I read that text 3 times before responding. I'm not brave. I'm just done being scared. Same thing. December 31st, 2024, New Year's Eve. Damon wanted to go to a party, some work event, networking, schmoozing clients. We're going, he said. Both of us. I need to show a united front. I'm not going. He stopped, turned to look at me. What? I said I'm not going. Go by yourself. His face darkened. We've been through this. When I say, we're going somewhere, I don't care what you say anymore. Silence. The air in the room changed, got heavier, dangerous. You want to do this now? Damon said quietly. You want to have this fight now? There's no fight. I'm not going. That's it. He took a step toward me. The recording device was in my pocket. Running. You're my wife, he said. You do what I tell you to do. No, I said simply. I don't. He raised his hand. I didn't flinch. Go ahead, I said. Hit me. Give me one more thing to show the police. His hand froze midair. What? You heard me. Hit me. Add assault to everything else. See what happens. He lowered his hand slowly, his eyes searching mine. What are you talking about? Everything else? I didn't answer, just smiled. And I watched the realization dawn on his face, the understanding that something was happening, something he didn't control, something he didn't see coming. What did you do? He whispered. You'll find out soon enough. He left for the party alone, and I spent New Year's Eve in that condo, sitting by the window watching fireworks explode over the Atlanta skyline, watching the old year die, watching a new year begin. In 2 days, the article would publish. In 2 days, Damon's name would be attached to words like abuser and predator and fraud. In 2 days, everyone would know. And in 2 days, I would file for divorce and a restraining order and walk out of this condo for the last time. I raised my glass of wine to the window, to the fireworks, to the end of one chapter and the beginning of another. Happy New Year, Damon, I whispered. Hope you enjoyed this one, because it's your last. January 2nd, 2025, 6:47 a.m. The article went live at 6 in the morning. I know because I was awake, had been awake all night, watching my phone, waiting. The headline appeared first. Behind the perfect image, Atlanta consultant Damon Jennings, accused of abuse, revenge porn, and fraud, by Simone Parker. I clicked on it, read the first paragraph. Naomi Jennings spent 6 years married to a man the world saw as successful, charismatic, and untouchable. Behind closed doors, she says, he was controlling, violent, and cruel. On Thanksgiving 2024, he allegedly screened a sex tape of her, recorded without consent, in front of both their families. What happened next is a story of systematic revenge and one woman's fight to reclaim her life. My hands were shaking. The article was long, detailed, devastating. It included everything: the abuse, the isolation, the affairs, the offshore accounts, Gerald's testimony about fraud, Miranda's complaint about workplace harassment, and photos. Photos of bruises I documented years ago, screenshots of threatening text messages, bank records showing the hidden money, everything. By 7 a.m., the article had been shared 2,000 times. By 8 a.m., it was trending on Twitter. By 9 a.m., 3 local news stations had picked it up. And by 9:30 a.m., Damon knew. I heard him before I saw him. The front door slamming open so hard it bounced off the wall. His footsteps heavy and fast across the hardwood floors. Naomi, I was in the kitchen, had been waiting, knew this moment was coming. The recording device was in my pocket, running. He stormed in holding his phone, face twisted with rage. "What the fuck is this?" he shouted, shoving the screen toward me. "The article." "It's the truth," I said, calmly. "The truth? You lying bitch? You told a reporter I abused you? That I recorded you without permission? You're trying to destroy me." "No, Damon, I'm not trying. I am destroying you." His eyes widened. "What? Did you think I'd just take it? The video at Thanksgiving? The years of abuse? Did you think I'd stay quiet forever?" He took a step toward me. I stepped back, kept the island between us. "You have no idea what you've done," he said, voice low and dangerous. "That article is defamation, libel. I'm going to sue you and that reporter and the entire fucking newspaper. Good luck with that. Everything in that article is documented. Photos, text messages, witnesses. Gerald Thompson is willing to testify about the fraud. Miranda Powell about the harassment. 3 other women from your firm about inappropriate conduct." Damon's face went pale. You went to Gerald. I went to everyone, found everyone you ever hurt, everyone you ever screwed over, and I gave them all a platform to tell their stories. This is insane. You're insane. Maybe, but I'm not powerless anymore. He lunged around the island, grabbed my shoulders, shook me. "You think you can ruin me? You think anyone will believe you over me? They already do. Check your phone. Check social media. Everyone believes me." He shoved me backward. I caught myself against the counter. "I should have killed you when I had the chance," he hissed. The recording device captured every word. "But you didn't," I said, "and now it's too late." There was a knock at the door. Damon froze. "Who is that?" "Police," I said. "I called them before you got here. Told them you were threatening me." His eyes darted toward the door, back to me. "You called the cops?" "And I filed a restraining order this morning. It's being served right now. You have 24 hours to vacate this condo." "This is my home." "Actually," I said, pulling out a document from the drawer, "it's our home, joint property, and according to Georgia law, in cases of domestic violence, I can petition for exclusive possession," which I did. The judge signed it an hour ago. I slid the document across the counter. His hands shook as he picked it up. "Read it." The knock came again, louder. "Damon Jennings, this is Atlanta PD. Open the door." He looked at me with something I'd never seen before. Fear. "You're going to regret this," he said quietly. "No," I replied. "You are." The police escorted Damon out. He tried to argue, tried to explain that this was all a misunderstanding, that I was unstable, that I'd fabricated everything. But they'd read the article, seen the photos, heard the recording I played for them of his threats. They didn't care what he had to say. By noon, Damon was gone. By 1 p.m., I'd changed the locks. By 2 p.m., Kendra was at my door with a bottle of wine and a smile. "You did it," she said. "We did it." We sat in the living room, my living room now, and watched the fallout unfold on our phones. The article had gone viral. Over 50,000 shares, hundreds of comments, most supportive, some cruel, all of them seeing me, really seeing me, not as the woman in the video, as the woman who fought back. January 3rd, 2025. The consequences came fast. Damon's firm fired him, officially terminated his employment effective immediately. The board released a statement condemning his behavior and promising a full investigation. The IRS contacted him, requested documents, scheduled an audit. His mother called me, crying, apologizing, saying she never knew, that if she'd known, she would have stopped him. I didn't believe her, but I accepted her apology anyway. His father called too, angrier, demanding to know why I'd gone public, why I hadn't handled this privately. Because private meant I stayed silent while he destroyed me. I said, I'm done being silent. I hung up on him. January 5th, 2025. Miranda Powell reached out. A message on Facebook. Simple. Thank you. I've been carrying shame about what happened with Damon for over a year. Your article made me realize it wasn't my fault. I filed a formal complaint with the state licensing board. He shouldn't be allowed to practice consulting anymore. Then another message from a woman I didn't know. I dated Damon before you. He did the same things to me. Isolation, control, threats. I thought I was alone. Thank you for speaking up. Then another, and another. By the end of the day, 11 women had contacted me. 11 women Damon had hurt. 11 women who'd been carrying silence and shame and trauma. And now they were speaking. All of them. January 10th, 2025. Damon tried to fight back. His lawyer sent me a cease and desist letter, threatening to sue for defamation if I made any more false statements. I forwarded it to my lawyer, a pit bull named Jessica Chen who specialized in domestic violence cases. She laughed. Let him sue. Discovery would be beautiful. We'd subpoena everything, every woman, every witness, every document. He'd lose badly. Damon's lawyer must have told him the same thing because I never heard from them again. January 15, 2025. The IRS investigation intensified. Agents showed up at Damon's hotel room, served him with a subpoena for records, froze his offshore accounts. He tried to call me. 12 times. I never answered. He tried to email, sent long, rambling messages about how I was ruining his life, how everything he'd done was for us, how I was being vindictive and cruel. I forwarded every email to my lawyer. Evidence. January 20th, 2025. The criminal charges were filed. Revenge porn, a felony in Georgia. Damon was arrested, posted bail, had to surrender his passport. The trial was scheduled for April. Will you testify? Jessica asked. Yes, I said without hesitation. It's going to be brutal. His attorney will try to discredit you, claim you're lying, that you consented to the recording. I know. And you're still willing? I'm willing, because if I don't testify, he gets away with it, and I'm done letting him get away with anything. April 15th, 2025, Fulton County Courthouse. The trial lasted 3 days. 3 days of sitting in that courtroom watching Damon try to rewrite history. His attorney painted me as a scorned wife, said I'd fabricated everything because I was angry about the affairs, that I'd manufactured evidence, that the abuse never happened. But Jessica was better. She presented the photos, the text messages, the recordings. She called Gerald Thompson to testify about the fraud. She called Miranda Powell to testify about the harassment. She called Dr. Rachel Kim, a psychologist who specialized in domestic violence, to explain the patterns of coercive control. And then she called me. I took the stand on the second day. The courtroom was packed. Reporters, Damon's family, my family, strangers who'd followed the story online. Jessica asked me to tell the jury what happened. So I did. I told them about the 6 years of abuse, the isolation, the control, the violence. I told them about Thanksgiving, about watching my own body on that screen while my parents watched, about the humiliation. I told them about the recording, about how I never consented, never knew. And I looked at Damon while I spoke. He wouldn't meet my eyes. His attorney cross-examined me for 2 hours, tried to poke holes in my story, tried to make me sound vengeful, unstable, unreliable. But I didn't break. I'd survived 6 years with Damon Jennings. A hostile attorney was nothing. April 17th, 2025. Verdict day. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. When they came back, the foreperson stood and read the verdict. On the charge of distributing intimate images without consent, we find the defendant guilty. The courtroom erupted. Damon's mother sobbed. His father sat stone-faced. Crystal left without looking at him. I didn't cry, didn't smile, just sat there, feeling something I hadn't felt in 6 years. Safe. Sentencing came 2 weeks later. The judge gave Damon 3 years in prison, plus 5 years probation after release, and mandatory registration as a sex offender. Mr. Jennings, the judge said, you violated your wife's trust, her privacy, and her dignity. You used her body as a weapon against her. This sentence reflects the severity of that violation. Damon didn't speak, just stared straight ahead as they led him away in handcuffs. I watched him go, and I felt nothing. No satisfaction, no triumph, no closure, just relief that it was over. May 1st, 2025. Moving day. I moved out of the condo that had been my prison for 6 years, sold it as part of the divorce settlement, took my half of the proceeds and bought a small house in Decatur, 2 bedrooms, a yard, a place that was mine. No memories of Damon, no ghosts in the corners, just clean space and new possibilities. My mother helped me unpack. How does it feel? She asked, looking around the empty living room, like starting over. Is that good or bad? I thought about it. Both, I said, but mostly good. May 15th, 2025, new beginning. I started working again. Not marketing. That life was over. Instead, I took a job at a nonprofit that helped domestic violence survivors, answering phones, connecting women with resources, listening to their stories that sounded a lot like mine, women trapped in marriages they couldn't escape, women who thought they were alone, women who needed to hear that fighting back was possible. I told them my story, not all of it, just enough. And I watched their faces change, watched hope replace despair. You really did all that? One woman asked me. You really destroyed him? I really did. And you survived? I survived, she smiled then, for the first time since walking through our doors. Maybe I can too. You can, I promised. You will. June 1st, 2025, 6 months later. I sat in my backyard on a Saturday morning drinking coffee and watching birds. My phone buzzed. Text from Kendra. Saw the news. Damon's firm declared bankruptcy. IRS penalties wiped them out. Everything's gone. I read it twice, then set my phone down. Damon had lost everything. His company, his money, his reputation, his freedom. Everything he'd built for himself had collapsed, and I had been the architect of that collapse. I waited to feel something. Guilt, maybe, remorse. But I felt nothing except peace. June 15th, 2025, 6 months and 23 days after Thanksgiving. I got a letter in the mail from Damon, written from prison. I almost threw it away without reading it, but curiosity got the better of me. I opened it. Dear Naomi, I know you probably don't want to hear from me. I know you hate me. You have every right to. I've had a lot of time to think in here. About what I did, about who I became, about the man I thought I was versus the monster you saw. You were right. About everything. I was controlling, abusive, cruel, and I told myself it was love, that I was protecting you, protecting us. But I was really just trying to own you. I don't expect forgiveness. Don't expect you to write back. Don't expect anything except for you to know that I finally understand what I did. I destroyed you, or tried to, because I couldn't handle the idea of you leaving, couldn't handle not being in control. You fought back. You won. And I'm glad you did, because you deserved better than me. You always did. I hope you're happy now. I hope you've rebuilt your life. I hope you never think about me again. I'm sorry for everything. Damon. I read the letter 3 times, then walked to my fireplace, lit a match, and watched it burn. His apology didn't change anything, didn't heal anything, didn't undo 6 years of trauma. It was just words on paper from a man who'd finally lost. And I didn't need his apology to move forward. I'd already moved on. July 4th, 2025, Independence Day. I spent the 4th of July with my family, my parents, my sister, my nephew. We barbecued in my new backyard, played with sparklers, watched fireworks from my porch. My nephew asked me why I was smiling so much. Because I'm happy, I told him. Why? Because I'm free. He didn't understand. He was too young. But someday he would. Someday he'd understand that freedom isn't just the absence of chains. It's the presence of choice, of agency, of power over your own life. August 1st, 2025, full circle. I got a call from Simone Parker. I'm doing a follow-up article, she said. 6 months after the original, checking in on you. How you're doing? What comes after revenge? What comes after revenge? I repeated. Yeah, you destroyed him. You won. But what happens now? How does someone rebuild after that? I thought about the question. You rebuild slowly, I said, one day at a time. You go to therapy. You make new friends. You find work that matters. You learn to trust again. Are you happy? I looked around my little house, at the life I'd built from the ashes of the old one. I'm getting there, I said. Some days are good, some days are hard, but I'm free, and that's enough for now. Do you have any regrets about how you handled things? No, he took everything from me. I took everything from him. That's justice. Some people might say, revenge isn't justice. Some people have never been trapped in an abusive marriage. I replied, revenge was the only justice available to me, and I took it. The article published 2 weeks later. After the fall, Naomi Jennings on life after destroying her abuser. It went viral too, not as viral as the first one, but enough that more women reached out. More women thanked me. More women said I'd inspired them to leave, and that made everything worth it. September 15th, 2025, 9 months and 23 days after Thanksgiving. I was sitting in my living room when I realized something. I'd gone an entire day without thinking about Damon. An entire day where he didn't occupy space in my mind, where I didn't check my phone expecting threats, where I didn't look over my shoulder expecting him to appear. He was gone, not just physically, mentally, emotionally. He'd become a story I told, a chapter I'd closed, a ghost that no longer haunted me, and I I was free. Truly, completely, finally free. December 23rd, 2025. 1 year later, 1 year after I'd sat in a Walmart parking lot and decided to destroy Damon Jennings. 1 year after, I'd stopped being a victim and became something else. I threw a party, a small one, just the people who mattered. My parents, my sister, Kendra, Jessica, Simone, Miranda, even Gerald flew in from Tampa. We raised glasses of champagne and toasted to survival, to resilience, to women who fight back. To Naomi, Kendra said, the bravest woman I know. I'm not brave, I said. Yes, she replied. You are, because brave doesn't mean unafraid. It means doing it anyway. I thought about that later, after everyone left, after I'd cleaned up and locked the doors and stood alone in my house. Brave doesn't mean unafraid. I'd been afraid every step of the way, afraid of failing, afraid of Damon winning, afraid of what I might become in pursuit of revenge. But I'd done it anyway. I'd faced the man who destroyed me, and I'd destroyed him back. And I'd survived. Not just survived, rebuilt, became someone new, someone stronger, someone who knew her own power. I walked to my bedroom, caught my reflection in the mirror. The woman staring back at me wasn't the woman Damon married. She was scarred, changed, harder in some ways, softer in others. But she was whole, and she was mine, not his, not anyone's. Mine. This is Naomi's story, a story of survival, revenge, and reclaiming power. If her journey moved you, subscribe to our channel for more stories of people who refused to stay victims. New videos every day, because everyone deserves to know that fighting back is possible.